Behind the Shades.
I am Mama Foxfire. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a single mom. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a full-time proposal manager and a variety gamer. I have been through a lot in my life. However much we wind up covering today, I promise you there's more that I've been through. But all of that led to me raising awareness about mental health topics as an advocate. And I've been living with depression and anxiety on and off since 2015. My cat needs all of the attention. I'm still working to overcome CPTSD from an emotionally abusive marriage. I lived through postpartum depression. I also very strongly believe that if the stigma around mental health were minimized or eliminated altogether, my grandfather, who went missing in 2017, would still be alive today. So I have, in my downtime, I do run a podcast called Even Tacos Fall Apart, and you can find all of the details on tacosfallapart.org. And my goal there is to just kind of build a place where people can share information and stories similar to what you do, kind of the resources and the laughs. And I put in the work to open up those conversations and provide our community with and podcast guests kind of the grace and the space to work through their own shit on their own time. So I am Mama Foxfire on all socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It's Mama Foxfire.
Beautiful. The second person I've interviewed that actually has a Twitter account. So I must say kudos for that, because I don't know many.
Yeah. I've got Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, and I'm even on LinkedIn as Mama Foxfire. I try to be very consistent.
Perfect. So take us through the genesis, because you mentioned that you had depression. You mentioned that there's an abusive marriage. So let's start from the beginning and get to know you. So how did this all start when you realize, hey, something in my life is not right, and you're going through all these different situations that aren't necessarily healthy for you?
Yeah. So I grew up pretty typical childhood. I mean, I've got two sisters and everything was pretty normal. In 2006, I was 21 and I gave birth to my oldest. And I was a single mother, and I had pretty severe birthing trauma. And it's something that I strongly blame the hospital and the doctors for. Fortunately, my second birth was, while not perfect, still was something that was better than the first time around. So, and from there, I got married in 2011 and became a stepmom and started to be in an abusive situation emotionally. In 2013, we had another baby. And that's, I would say in 2013 is really where I noticed mental health issues starting with postpartum depression, which at the time wasn't something that I thought you could talk about. I mean, 2013 doesn't sound that long ago. It was 10 years ago. But in the like ability to talk about things openly and honestly, we've come a long way, honestly, thanks to COVID. We've come a long way in a very short amount of time. So back then in 2013, it was still kind of we don't talk about this situation. So I would say really where I started noticing, of course, I think that they probably started before that, but where I started noticing it was kind of that postpartum depression piece in 2013, 2014.
I know for me, when I began to think about my mental health and my mental fitness was when I wanted to make my life better, where I knew a change was necessary. Yeah. And then the last couple of years, it was like, Terrain, you can't go anywhere. All you have is to think about what is going on in your life. And maybe there's some people that thought things were an issue that maybe weren't an issue years prior, but it raised awareness to everything that could have been an issue. So when you had your second child and you're like, hey, wait a minute, this marriage is not going the way I want it to go. Was it like a aha moment, or was it like a slow build to you discovering that this isn't working?
So as far as my marriage goes, like I think with the postpartum depression, I owe a huge debt of gratitude to my OBGYN because she asked the right questions at the time and got me was like, hey, you have postpartum depression, by the way, in a routine follow-up. And we were able to just treat that with medication, and she was able to prescribe it. But kudos to her for identifying it, asking the right questions, getting me on some medication that really did help at that time. As far as my marriage goes, I would say I really started noticing that something was off probably around 2014, but I couldn't quite identify what it was. And really, I think more than saying something's wrong with my marriage, I was more thinking something's going on with my husband. And at that time, we were trying for another baby. We were having a hard time getting pregnant. And so I kind of chalked it up to, well, we're all having a hard time here. And it's kind of found out in 2015 that I was not going to be able to have more children, and had to have a hysterectomy. But around that same time, I also found out that my ex was having an affair. And at the same time that I found out about the active affair, I found out about a second affair that he had had prior. So I was actually able to talk to his affair partner. And I asked her directly, I said, hey, do you know if he's had other affairs? And she said, yes. And I asked for some details to confirm. And it was true. She was not, I mean, why would she lie? Honestly, like, she was already caught. Why would she lie more? So, but that's kind of whenever I first noticed that something was wrong in the marriage. I will say at that time, I did not recognize, I was not willing to recognize, probably I was being a little stubborn, that I was in something that was emotionally abusive. That would take probably 3 more years for me to really recognize and come to terms with, through a lot of therapy.